So that's www.badefund.co.uk. Click on donate now where you will find the details, or click on the PayPal section in the header box. The Bade Fund, the Bade Fund, the Bade Fund, the Bade Fund.
Many more will have to die. Don't ask me why.
Rastataya, Rastataya, Rastataya. This is the Shaka from station to station to tell the generation and the nations. Rastafari. Education is the key. All youth strive for development. Rastafari. Love is the key. You can give them that. Give them that message from me.
No cigarette smoking in my room. Yeah. I Stephen Marley, Best FM radio, play good tune.
Abaya Sela, wishing you a good afternoon and hoping you had a pleasant morning culminating in a happy and blessed day. I'd like to give thanks to Jehovah for the many gifts he has given us in the name of his Son. For all the mothers, let's give you honor with Mayo Angelo's poem. Mother, a cradle to hold me. It is true I was created in you. It is also true that you were created for me. I owned your voice. It was shaped and tuned to soothe me. Your arms were molded into a cradle to hold me, to rock me. The scent of your body was the air perfumed for me to breathe. Mother, during those early, dearest days, I did not dream that you had a large life which included me, for I had a life which was only you. Time passed steadily and drew us apart. I was unwilling. I feared if I let you go, you would leave me eternally. You smiled at my fears, saying, I could not stay in your lap forever. That one day you would have to stand, and where would I be? You smiled. I did not. Without warning, you left me, but you returned immediately. You left again and returned, I admit quickly. But relief did not rest with me easily. You left again, but again returned. You left again, but again returned. Each time you re-entered my world, you brought assurance. Slowly I gained confidence. You thought you know me, but I did know you. You thought you were watching me, but I did hold you securely in my sight, recording every moment, memorizing your smiles, tracing your frowns. In your absence I rehearsed you, the way you had of singing on a breeze while a sob lay at the root of your song, the way you posed your head so that the light could caress your face when you put your finger on my head and your hand on my hand. I was blessed with a sense of health, of strength, and very good fortune. You were always the heart of happiness to me, bringing nuggets of glee, sweets of open laughter. I loved you even during the years when you knew nothing, and I knew everything. I loved you still. Condescendingly, of course, from my high perch of teenage wisdom, I spoke sharply of you often. Because you were slow to understand, I grew older and was stunned to find how much knowledge you had gleaned, and so quickly. Mother, I have learned enough now to know I have learned nearly nothing. On this day, when mothers are being honored, let me thank you that my selfishness, ignorance, and mockery did not bring you to discard me like a broken doll, which had lost its favor. I thank you that you still find something in me to cherish, to admire, and to love. I thank you, Mother. I love you. And this was written by Mayo Angelou, and it basically celebrates the role of a mother. And as mothers, we must celebrate each other. As women, we must celebrate and love each other.
Oh, oh, muso todola, sadio, go muso yanina, umado de dunia, umado go muso yate kansai. Furumu sarate kanake worotane musoke jonye tine kamuso na dontensa muso tifari mujumbe bora dontensa muso tine kamuso na muso muso ye muni mungesa halade ya fama katoro kimunyusa wala sa neube barika umainya dije kinya dije umma se kasila walai do kajan ka se balite umainya dije kinya dije nimma se kasila Emma ima kusan kasibani kunte Dinye sanguni wari muso 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 yan baye muso yan kroye muso muso yan tereye atimilika muso na kontensa kana muso na se Chiquito, pero la danza, muso jala ye muso ye, muso ni kolonde muso ye. Dunia sababu, dunia ye sababu ye, ayaye, dunia sababu. Dunia ye sababu ye, ayaye. Dunia sababu, dunia ye sababu ye, ayaye. Dunia sababu, wallaye. Dunia sababu ye, ayaye. Dunia sababu, ayaye. Dunia ye sababu, ayaye. Dunia sababu.
Sëñ Fallu mooy mbégub murit yi lu wér bu Yàlla moo ko def ci xol yee ñun muridu Laay galas la ñuy bégee bu wér galas bàyyu mbeen mën naa ni ñépp la saf bu nu ko tuddee suñ xol yi day neex ñun muridu Laay galas la ñuy bégee Kazu Rajab képp kuy taalibe am nga sëriñ bu mat sëriñ muy sa wasila ci yoonu Bamba waaye ko ci xar xolam Sëñ Fallu lay bégee bu wér man li ma xiir ci moom billaahi xaw ma ko sax fu ma jaaxle sëñ Fallu lay woo man Youssou Mari Sène sëñ Fallu lay bëggee lu wér tey ma xamal leen man Youssou sama secret lu ma tàmbale sëñ Fallu lay woo juróom ñaari yoon fekk bal ba tàkk na bu wér lu mu wax mu am sëñ Fallu Yàlla ko ko may bàyyi sëñ
The first track you heard was from Sonia Jabata. She's the Gambian vocalist and she's a kora player, and followed by I was saying, sorry, we had some technical error. The first track we listened to was Sona Jabata, Muso, and it was followed by Yusundo. And these are tracks that I quite enjoy because they're so soothing. And Sona Jabata, I specifically chose that because the soothing sound of her instrument, I quite liked it. And it complements the poem Meo Angelou. And Meo Angelou basically wrote this poem to celebrate women because she knows that all women, in general, when they give birth, their children, that's the first woman they actually make contact with. And this poem is an affirmation of the love that exists between mother and child in every corner of the globe. So it's like a common noun. And Meo Angelou celebrates the role of a mother. You were always the heart of happiness to me, she acknowledges in this loving tribute. The relationship from birth to teenage rebellion and adulthood, where that special relationship is appreciated, knowing the patience, love, strength, commitment that is needed to be a mother. Meo Angelou saluted the role of motherhood and encourages mothers to inherit timeless maternal wisdom, and that eternal wisdom should be passed on to our children. Our children needs love more than ever now in these critical times. So please give your children the love that they need. Yes, when they come to teenage years, as Mayo acknowledges, they become somewhat rebellious and we can lose patience. But one of the things she also highlights is the importance of a mother's love and the patience that is needed for a mother to continue to love her children in order for them to be able to develop and become successful in this critical world. It's a really critical world we're living in. So now we're going on to this African relaxing music, and I hope you enjoy it.
Sinjira kwele
Sëñ Fallu mooy bébub murit yi lu wér bu yàlla moo ko def ci xol yee nun muridu laay galas la ñuy bégee bu wér galas bàyyu mbeet mën naa ni ñépp la saf bu nu ko tuddee suñ xol yi day neex ñun muridu laay galas la ñuy bégee Kazu Rajab képp kuy taalibe am nga sëriñ bu mat sëriñ muy sa wasila ci yoonu Bamba waaye ko ci xar xolam Sëñ Fallu lay bégee bu wér man li ma xiir ci moom billaahi xaw ma ko sax fu ma jaaxle Sëñ Fallu lay woo man Yuusu Mari Seen Sëñ Fallu lay bégee lu wér tey ma xamal leen man Yuusu sama secret lu ma tàmbale Sëñ Fallu lay woo juróom ñaari yoon rek bal ba tàkk na bu wér lu mu wax mu am Sëñ Fallu yàllaa ko ko may bàyyi Sëriñ Baara bàyyi Sëriñ Abo bàyyi soxna moo nii rek la ñu bégee Sëñ Fallu ma kiik yàllaa ko boole ci xaritam bu ne mu am bu ne du am dara du am moo njëkk a miire armeer yi indi fi courant yëggale jumaay Tuuba ba noppi jiiteem jël juróom meeri soror ba tuddee lamp faal lamp baabul muridiina ma déggan dembal bàyyi gunda faal bàyyi asan faal naaru kaw sara faal na ñépp jóg di yëngatu Fallu jar na ko na ñépp jóg di yëngatu Fallu jar na ko Sëñ Fallu ni woon may Sénégal ku weddi laajal Senghor doomu yaay ji laan jël Sëñ Fallu moo sañ ci ndindi Sëñ Fallu di def ci dindi Sëñ Fallu ku réer mu dindi Sëñ Fallu mooy Sénégal Sëñ Fallu moo sañ ci ndindi Sëñ Fallu di def ci dindi Sëñ Fallu ku réer mu dindi Sëñ Fallu mooy Sénégal baatin bëri na nga neen ya feeñ na baa xam nga siiw na bégal nga réew me Cheikh Fallu ñëw na noflaay ga ñëw na xéewale tey na bégal nga réew me waayam du jàmbat Cheikh Fallu daa mat matali réew mi Cheikh Fallu daraam du manqué du def muy manqué daa fonk réew me moo njëkk a miire armeer yi indi fi goudron yëkkale jumaay Tuuba ba noppi jiite jël juróom meeri soro lamp faal baabul muriidi ma dégg demba bàyyi wunda faal bàyyi asan faal naaru kaw sara faal Cheikh Fallu moo sañ ci ndindi Sëñ Fallu mooy def ci dindi Sëñ Fallu
This is the great Youssoundo from Senegal, and he is a very famous African singer, and he is well known all over Africa. because what he's done is actually continued highlighting the music of Africa globally. But eventually you will get more familiar with Yusungu, because he's one of my favorite African authors. But what we are going to be doing, we're going to be focusing on Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass, I don't know if you know who Frederick Douglass is. I'll be reading from his autobiography, and I'd just like to give you a biography of Frederick Douglass. He was an American social reformer. He worked towards abolishing slavery. He was also a writer and a statesman, and he escaped from slavery in Maryland. He became a national leader of the abolitionist movement in Massachusetts and New York, gaining note for his oratory and incisive anti-slavery writing. And we are going to focus on his autobiography, as I said, and we're going to start. We won't read everything, but I'm just going to give you some of the information that he's written about himself, and this will be done over a period of time. We won't finish the entire autobiography today. We will do some today, and hopefully we'll finish it next week, as well as continuing with different African rhythms. Okay, so I'm going to just read the introduction to Frederick Douglass, the education of Frederick Douglass. I was born in Tuckahoe, near Hillsborough, and about 12 miles from Easton in Talbot County, Maryland. I have no accurate knowledge of my age, never having seen any authentic record containing it. By far the larger part of the slaves know as little of their ages as horses know of theirs, and it is the wish of most masters within my knowledge to keep their slaves thus ignorant. I do not remember to have ever met a slave who could tell of his birthday. They seldom come nearer to it than planting time, harvest time, cherry time, springtime, or fall time. A want of information concerning my own was a source of unhappiness to me, even during childhood. The white children could tell their ages. I could not tell why I ought to be deprived of the same privilege. I was not allowed to make any inquiries on my master concerning it. He deemed all such inquiries on the part of a slave improper and impertinent, and evidence of a slave and evidence of a restless spirit. The nearest estimate I can give makes me now between 27 and 28 years old. I came to this from hearing my master say sometime during 1835 I was about 17 years old. My mother was named Harriet Bailey. She was the daughter of Isaac and Betsy Bailey, both colored and quite dark. My mother was of a darker complexion than either my grandmother or grandfather. My father was a white man. He was admitted to be such by all I ever heard speak of my parentage. The opinion was also whispered that my master was my father, but of the correctness of this opinion I know nothing. The means of knowing was withheld from me. My mother and I were separated when I was but an infant, before I knew her as my mother. It is common custom in the part of Maryland from which I ran away to part children from their mothers at a very early age. Frequently, before the child has reached its 12th month, its mother is taken from it and hired out on some farm a considerable distance off, and the child is placed under the care of an old woman, too old for field labor. For what this separation is done, I do not know, unless it be to hinder the development of the child's affection toward its mother and to blunt and destroy the natural affection of the mother for the child. This is the inevitable result. I never saw my mother to know her as such more than 4 or 5 times in my life, and each of those times was very short in duration. And at night she was hired by a Mr. Stewart who lived about 12 miles from my home. She had her journeys to see me in the night, traveling the whole distance on foot. After the performance of her day's work, she was a field hand, and a whipping is the penalty of not being in the field at sunrise, unless a slave has special permission from his master to the contrary, a permission which they seldom get, and one that gives to him that gives it the proud name of being a kind master. I do not recollect ever seeing my mother by the light of day. She was with me in the night. She would lie down with me and get me to sleep, but long before I waked, she was gone. Very little communication ever took place between us. Death soon ended that what little we could have while she lived, and with it hardships and suffering. She died when I was about 7 years old on one of my master's farms near Lee's Mill. I was not allowed to be present during her illness, at her death or burial. She was gone long before I knew anything about it, never having enjoyed to any considerable extent her soothing presence, her tender and watchful care. I received the tidings of her death with much the same emotions I should have probably felt at the death of a stranger. Called thus suddenly away, she left me without the slightest intimation of who my father was. The whisper that my master was my father may or may not be true, and true or false, it is of but little consequences to my purpose, whilst the fact remains in all its glaring odiousness that slaveholders have ordained and by law established that the children of slave women shall in all cases follow the condition of their mothers, and this is done too obviously to administer to their own lust and make the gratification of their wicked desires profitable as well as pleasurable. For by this cunning arrangement the slaveholder in cases not a few sustains in his slaves the double relationship of master and father. So you can see just the embryonic stages of Frederick Douglass's life. What as a slave was the separation of his mother and the death of his mother, and him not being able to attend that funeral and even to visit his mother when she was ill. So you can see, how has this affected a generation of people? 400 years, yes, 400 years of that pattern. How has it affected a people, our people today? Can you see the effects this has had on our people? And a lot of people would say, oh, let's not go back to slavery. I think it is about time we had a serious discussion on the effects slavery has had, not only on the generation of slaves, or the generation of people whose ancestors were slaves, but also we see the devastation slavery has caused in Africa. It's not because the African person is not able to fend for himself, because we have some very prominent African people. Yes, the rulers of the African continent are very corrupt, bearing in mind they're imperfect and they have a love of money, and that impacts on the environment and the citizens of Africa. So I think it's time that we actually had a serious discussion based on the effects of slavery. Forget the apologies. Do we need apology? No. I think we need to be compensated, seriously compensated. Can they compensate us? If they compensate us, will they continue to be the first world? That is something we should actually call for. Compensation for the Africans in the diaspora as well as Africa, the continent. Okay, let's listen to another tune.
Momi biso la ñu denk Ibra Kebe mbaalo Ibra soxna giri mbaalo anta njuga Biram Jaara mali buubu marja bala may waare Momi soxna jaxate am sato soxna jaxate seyna bu jóob roxaya fat sekk fat mala sal Say mommy bari Ya khadim ak marem mbaro anta tuudi Gaide bu jamba Gaide no gaide
ezali kolo ebonga ekoko monunu alingaki feno akufaki zengi
This is Mabella Bell, and she comes from Kenya, East Africa. Yeah, Mabella Bell from Kenya, East Africa. I like her music. She has a lot of energy, especially when she dances. And I'm sure those of you that are listening, you know that African people, they can dance and they are very, very rhythmic. And all their body dances. With this woman here, she dances, and that's one of the reasons I like her music as well as the rhythm. So you'll be hearing more from Mabella Bell. Okay, now I'd like to continue thinking about how slavery has affected black people, our people, and how it's also affected the Caucasians. How has it affected us? I guess maybe some people will say at least we were taken away from Africa and we've learned a different culture. But was that in our interest long term? And Frederick Douglass, he helps us to see how it has affected us just by reading and reasoning. And in time we will critique his autobiography. But I'd like to continue reading. And it says from the last paragraph, it told us that basically that his father was also his master, but he was not sure. It was basically whispered that was his father. So straight away there was no father and mother relationship within that family. The master owned his mother, and he had relations with her whenever he chose. And that is one of the things that affected our community during slavery. Because what happened then, we had the fair-skinned children. And the fair-skinned children, they were seen as being more valuable than the dark-skinned children. And even today, colorism is so prominent, because we see women actually bleaching their skin to be of a lighter color. They don't realize the melanin in their skin is a gift, is the protection from the sun. And they should really embrace that melanin. They should really embrace the gift of their blackness. So Douglass goes on to say, basically, he knows of cases where master and father of one child was very prominent back in slavery. He goes on to say, I know of such cases, and it is worthy of remark that such slaves invariably suffer great hardships and have more to contend with than others. They are in the first place a constant offence to their mistress. She is ever disposed to find fault with them. They can seldom do anything to please her. She is never better pleased than when she sees them under the lash, especially when she suspects her husband of showing to his mulatto children favors which he withholds from his black slaves. The master is frequently compelled to sell this class of his slaves out of deference to the feelings of his white wife, and cruel as the deed may strike anyone to be for a man to sell his own children to human fleshmongers, it is often the dictate of humanity for him to do so, for unless he does this, he must not only whip them himself, but must stand by and see one white son tie up his brother of but few shades darker complexion than himself, and ply the gory lash to his naked back, and if he lips one word of disapproval, it is set down to his parental partiality, and only makes a bad matter worse, both for himself and the slave whom he would protect and defend. So here he says that the mulatto child, or the child that's been fathered by his master, suffers because of the master's wife, that child suffers because the master's wife wants to see that child whipped. The child can do nothing right in that his stepmother, actually that's the stepmother, isn't it? The stepmother's sight. And she will do anything for that child to be whipped, particularly if she sees her husband is showing favor to the mulatto child. And one of the things that was common back then was brothers whipping brothers. Can you imagine, on his naked back? Can you imagine your brother whipping you until your skin breaks? Can you imagine? And that is what Frederick witnessed, and maybe he himself, we will later find out whether or not he experienced a whipping. We know that he ran away. He ran away from the plantation in Maryland. And again, we will find out what path he took once he ran away. Now let's go back to some music. And this is Sona Jabate. She again comes from Gambia, and she is a kora player as well as a vocalist. I hope you enjoy this.
Ntefuta tajalia sobe mato ninte buto mama ke itele yatina nteye ninjalia silota kangfuta nina doma. Isedu kare tara
Sona Jabata is the first female kora virtuoso to come from a West African griot family, and she plays the kora, and this is one of the most important instruments belonging to the Mandin people of West Africa, and they come from Gambia, Senegal, Mali, Guinea, and Guinea-Bissau. It belongs exclusively to griot families, and usually only men who are born into these families have the right to take up the instrument professionally. So Sona Jabata combines various genres of African music and Western musical elements. She was, I spoke to a friend of mine who knows her, and they said the person told me that she's actually classically trained, and what she has done, she's combined the Western music with the African, and as you've heard, it is just so soothing, and that's what I am sharing with you guys today, and I hope you're enjoying it. Do you know what happened? She actually listened. She took up. She listened to Satan rather than listen to the stranger. And when I think about it, how did slavery begin? Did our ancestors listen to the voice of a stranger? Why so many of us were actually sold and taken to these distant lands? Is that what happened? Maybe in time we can have discussions based on this, and I'm looking forward to that. Okay? But for now, let's go back to Sonia's soothing sound. Oh, something there. Africa. Africa has suffered, just as her people has suffered. And Frederick goes on to say, every year brings with it multitudes of this class of slaves. It was doubtless in consequences of a knowledge of this fact that one great statement of the South predicted the downfall of slavery by the inevitable laws of population. Whether this prophecy is ever fulfilled or not, it is nevertheless plain that a very different looking class of people are springing up at the South and are now held in slavery from those originally brought to this country from Africa. And if their increase will do no other good, it will do away the forces of the argument that God cursed Ham, and therefore American slavery is right. If the lineal descendants of Ham are alone to be scripturally enslaved, it is a certainty that slavery at the South must soon become unscriptural, for thousands are ushered into the world annually. So what he's basically saying here, that the white man sincerely believed that God ordained black people to be slave. And I don't know if you're aware of how this came about when Noah, under his drunkard state, his son Ham saw his nakedness, and rather than cover up his grandfather, he went out and he told people, and his older brothers went and covered him up. And when Noah had recovered from his drunkard state, he cursed Ham. He cursed Canaan. He said, "Cursed be Canaan." Yeah, but Fredericks is saying Ham, but it wasn't Ham. It was Canaan that was cursed. And Canaan, the Canaanites, were not black people. The Canaanites were the white people. Yeah, black people descended from Ham. And as a result, what the Caucasians did, they twisted the story and said that. But I think Fredericks got it wrong here, because we were not from the descendant of Ham. We are from the descendants of... We're not the descendant from Canaan. We are the descendants of Ham. So he's saying also a different set of people were taken from Africa. And these people... they look totally different, and if these people had their own way, slavery will sooner or later be abolished. And little did he know, he was actually going to be part of that group of people who actually stood up to the slave masters and rebelled against them and abolished slavery. We are told that slavery was abolished by the Europeans, but there was several uprisings on the plantations during the slave trade. So we know that it wasn't really the white man who, through love or mercy, abolished slavery, but rather it was because black people, they stood up. And they believed that they had the right to be free, just like every other man. So yes, I am hoping that you enjoyed today. I'm not as organized as I would like to be, but this is my second time, and hoping as time goes by, I'll be more organized, and we will enjoy and spend time together. And in time, you'll be able to call me and then maybe have discussions, because this station is going to be based on African music, and I will explain to you more fully why I am choosing a particular track, and then from there on we can proceed. Okay? So I'm going to put on Mabella Bell, Nake Nairobi, And she's talking about the love that she has for Nairobi. Okay? like to thank you for tuning in, and hopefully next week I'll be more organized and the music will be introduced more adequately. But we are going to focus a bit more on Frederick Douglass and the experience he has, and We will also be reading some more poems. And if you have any poems that you'd like me to read or focus on in due course, maybe we can also have the opportunity to do that. But for now, I'd like to say thank you for tuning in, and may you look after yourself and good health, and never forget to give thanks to our Creator. So I'm going to leave you with this African relaxing music, Tuga Pamoja. Okay, enjoy. I see you again next week, and do look after yourself. Peace and love and blessings always.
bora donasa muso muso ye muni mungesa halade ya fama katoro kimunyusa wala sa neube barika umainya diche kinya diche umma se kasila walai do kajanka se balite umainya diche kinya diche nimma se kasila Emma ima kusa kasibani kunte Dinye sanu ni wari muso Muso yan baye Muso yan kroye Muso yan tereye Timilika muso na kontensa Kana muni sotola se Dunia ye sababu le ayaye dunia sababu Dunia ye sababu ye ayaye dunia sababu Dunia ye sababu ye ayaye dunia sababu